So the NBA trade deadline is coming up a week from Thursday on February 6th. So coming up on today's Philadelphia 76ers Now, going to pass along the latest Sixers trade buzz because according to reports, the Sixers receiving interest in Guerschon Yabusele and Eric Gordon. Before we do that, I want to prove our Knicks Now host wrong. Our Knicks Now host Marshall Green said we could not get 300 likes on this video. You know the motto for me, F New York, F Marshall, F Knicks Now. Help us out, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video so that we can shut him up because as we know, New Yorkers, they like to talk. From Marc Stein, NBA Insider, Sixers have received multiple trade offers for Guerschon Yabusele, and interest in Eric Gordon is out there. Here's what Marc Stein had to say with his latest report. The Sixers, I'm told, love Guerschon Yabusele, yet they might soon have a difficult decision to make with the bruising French forward and his $2.1 million minimum contract. League sources say that Philadelphia has already received multiple trade offers from playoff-bound teams for Yabusele, who has been an effective addition to the Sixers frontcourt after his strong play in the Olympics for the silver medal winning hosts. That is, of course, Team France. And Chip and I talked about Yabusele last week. He's a big who can have an impact playing the 4 or 5. He has positional versatility. He can guard multiple positions. He can hold it down on the low block. He can knock down shots from the outside. But for other winning and playoff teams, they look at him as valuable for those reasons, but he is also a low-salary talent, and those types of players, very valuable in the NBA because a lot of these championship contenders a little bit tight financially, and Yabusele wouldn't really impact that bottom line all that much. The Sixers will also have trouble in re-signing Yabu. Why is that? We talked about this as well, but we'll give you a refresher. Due to NBA salary rules, the most that the Sixers can offer him is $5.7 million. Unless he takes a discount, there's a good chance that you lose him in free agency because given the current state of NBA player contracts and the strengths to his game, on both ends of the floor, probably going to be another team that offers him more. Now, some fans might say, we gave him a chance. He flamed out as a first-rounder with Boston, went overseas. Sixers loved what they saw in the Olympics. Nobody else offered him an NBA contract. The Sixers did. He fits well here. Yeah, but because he flamed out as a former first-round pick, also trying to get another bag, and there was a little bit of a buyout, I believe, with this team overseas. I believe it was Real Madrid. In 2024-2025, he's played 26.1 minutes per game, okay? And he's averaging 10 points per game. He's connecting on nearly 39% of his threes, just under 50% on his field goals. And so I really like the player because he's very fundamentally sound having played overseas. He's a big body. I love what Marc Stein said, bruising forward from France. He can knock down the 3. He can play down low. He can play the 4 or 5. He can guard the 4 or 5. Not afraid to stick his neck in there. He's a decent rebounder, one of those playoff glue guys. Now, I don't think that the Sixers should give him away for nothing. You might be able to get a first-round pick. It might be mid to late rounds. There might be some protections involved, but you can't just give away a valuable player who's really improved his stock away for nothing. So, Chip, love what we've seen from Yabusele, but business-wise, if the Sixers decide to sell, if they decide to tank, why not get value back for a player who they otherwise might lose?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate reality with a player like this in a situation like this. I know I've seen a lot of Sixers fans, especially over the last week or so, as these Yabusele rumors have started to pick up, like, we got to find a way to keep him, we got to find a way for him to stay, and then he was at the Eagles NFC Championship game, just in the crowd with all the fans, and everybody just loves the guy, right? And he really does fit this city so perfectly on and off the court. And again, I love what I've seen from him, and I'd love to keep him around long term. But the reality is, I think one thing you mentioned, Chase, which I think is very important to remember, yeah, they are the team that gave him a second chance, and I'm sure he appreciates that. He's going to want to cash in. This is really his only chance, probably. He's already almost 30 years old at this point because he spent so much time out of the NBA. Probably his only chance to cash in on a multi-year, pretty penny of a contract. So does he really want to take a discount just to stay with a Sixers team that hasn't really shown to be much of a contender? I don't know. So I think you have to do what you got to do. Don't lose him for nothing. And, you'd be doing good by him as well, because the Sixers team probably isn't going anywhere this year. Give him to a contender. Let him make a real impact on another team. You can get a back end of the first round pick, protections, whatever, but you got to get something for him. Again, don't just give him away, but I think this team is smart. And the fact that they're already getting multiple offers, that should tell you all you need to know. There's multiple people looking for him. So maybe a little bit of a bidding war here for Guerschon Yabusele.
Yeah, not a lot of people thought that was going to be the case when the Sixers signed him. I mean, right after the Olympics, Chip and I had talked about him as a Sixers target, and people were saying, they're never going to sign him. You guys are crazy. Look at how impactful he's been, especially with Joel Embiid out, helping the Sixers survive somewhat in that front court. So today's poll question is this: should the Sixers keep or trade Guerschon Yabusele? Do you want value back for a player who you otherwise might lose in free agency? Type K for keep or T for trade. Our sponsor for today's 76ers Now, our friends at Game Time. If you want to go to a Sixers game at the Wells Fargo Center, yeah, they might be having a down year, but it's still a great fan experience. Tailgate outside of the arena, go to the game, enjoy some Sixers basketball. Make sure you do it with the Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. And right now, when you download the app, you create an account, and you use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, you get $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Thanks to Game Time Picks, it makes it easier, and curation does, to not have to go through thousands of tickets. Instead, Game Time will give you the best price point and the best vantage point, so that you don't have to spend hours looking through all of those tickets trying to find the best deal, because the best deal lives on Game Time. Flash deals, zone deals. Make sure you toggle the all-in pricing tool. Therefore, you don't get hit with any surprise fees at checkout. So download the app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Marc Stein here on Eric Gordon as we cover the Yabusele front. Word is there has likewise been trade interest registered in veteran Eric Gordon. He is shooting nearly 50% from three-point range in 14 games in January. When you have an older player who has played a lot in the playoffs, who is very experienced and has a vast amount of experience playing in big games, and he can knock down the three, and he's cheap, there will be teams who are looking around saying, we could use a three-point shooter. We could use a flamethrower who can give us some buckets from beyond the arc, who's not going to have fear in some of these big games. Let's check in on Eric Gordon. Should be able to get a second-round pick or two for his services, and teams looking for a cheap option here, that is Gordon to a T. He's making $3.3 million this year, then has a player option for 2025-2026 of $3.4 million. His numbers for the entire season, pretty good. And then he's really caught fire here in January. Almost 7 points per game, 42% from the floor, just under 40% from three for the season. And again, since the turn of the calendar month here in January, it's now January 28th, he's really started to turn it on. More from Marc Stein. The belief is that the Sixers want to gauge results over the next week plus before firming up their trade deadline approach. Joel Embiid has still only appeared in 13 games this year for the Sixers, but a case can be made to resist trade pitches for Yabusele and Gordon if a second-half push for at least a play-in tournament spot is within reach. What has to happen for that to happen? Embiid to get healthy, and he hasn't been healthy all year. As for the Eastern Conference standings, if you want to get into the playoff or play-in tournament, here's where things stand, right? The Orlando Magic, they are 24-24, 7 seed. Pistons, 23-23, even there, 8 seed. Atlanta Hawks, 22-24, 9 seed. Chicago Bulls, 20-27. And so with the Sixers here, started off poorly, and then they got hot, then they went cold again, and now they're starting to play a little bit of better basketball, but they are still 3 games back in the win column from the Chicago Bulls, cover the NFL a lot, from getting in that category of being a play-in tournament team. And remember when we were talking about the gauntlet a little while ago? The Sixers are kind of in the midst of that. Tonight, play the Los Angeles Lakers. Wednesday, back-to-back, Sacramento Kings. Friday, Denver Nuggets. Sunday, Boston Celtics. Tuesday against Dallas. And then Wednesday against Miami. And you're not sure when Joel Embiid's going to come back, and Paul George is injured a bit right now. Speaking of that, latest injury updates. Embiid out at least the next 2 games. He has been back at practice. Paul George injured his pinky finger against the Bulls, out against the Lakers. And then KJ Martin, Andre Drummond, Caleb Martin, all out against the Lakers as well. Tyrese Maxey chip going to have to carry.
Yeah, it's kind of how it's been for the better part of the season. The Tyrese Maxey show. But as we look ahead, 6 games left until the deadline. 3 games back in the win column against the Bulls. Look, I don't know how hard it's going to really be to catch up to the Bulls. They're apparently a selling team right now. Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, on the block, Lonzo Ball, a name that's been mentioned in trade rumors. So to me, it looks like the Bulls, who have always just made the mistake of being a very mid team. They never sell their assets. They try to compete a little bit. They always end up at that 10 seed and lose in the play-in and then get the 10th pick in the draft. I think they finally this might be the year they start to sell a little bit, so I don't really know how hard it would be for the Sixers to catch them and get that last play-in spot, which, to me, kind of tells me unless they lose all 6 of these games heading into the deadline, that they're probably going to be buyers. Unless they really do get an offer, they simply cannot refuse. If some team is out there like, you know what? We'll give you 2 first-round picks for Guerschon Yabusele. We'll give you a first for Eric Gordon. Why not? Unless that happens, which it won't happen. I think they might just be buyers, or at the very least sit on what they have and hope Embiid can get healthy, which, we talked about on the show yesterday, depending on and hoping on Embiid to get healthy. Not a great, thing to rest your team's success on, but It's kind of the spot they're in. It seems like they still have belief, so again, just a little over a week now until the deadline. Rumors going to be flying, and, we'll get to it all, and we'll see what moves they make. But right now, still kind of right in the race, but this 6-game stretch, all at home, by the way, all home games, going to be very important to determine the rest of their season.
Yeah, for sure, as part of that gauntlet, too. And that's what stood out about that difficult stretch when we talked about it previously when the Sixers were about to embark on it. Just looking at it again, you are in front of the home crowd. But what I did worry about, if that Sixers slow start continued, the city would just lose interest, especially with the Eagles now making it to the Super Bowl and the Sixers playing poorly. People are like, the Sixers? Who the hell cares? The Sixers need all of our support right now. We need your support. Subscribe to the channel. Best 76ers trade deadline coverage right here on YouTube. Myself and Chip are going to New Orleans to cover the Super Bowl, but with the deadline coming up, we'll still be giving you some great content.